So I wanted to make another video and talk about some more subjects that I think were very important to my mother. Now, we go into, this is when I was living in my apartment in 2007 for my bone marrow transplant. I lived there for about approximately 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years. Moved in there before I turned 21, like 6 months before, or I'm going to say sometime, a couple of months. I think it was sometime in October. It was a beautiful time to move into the season, right? Because the holidays were coming up and starting getting cold. My father had just passed away, and it had been a couple of months, and then 2-3 months, and then I moved into my apartment. And this is about sexual selection, the topic, on how a predator comes in and either older than you and says what you can and cannot have, and they will use lethal enforcement, either law enforcement or a personal law, someone that applies authority over you to say what you can and cannot have to benefit Kenneth. And this is about Kenneth showing up and making his threats toward me on the girl upstairs that was blonde. I didn't know, you could probably find this out, but there was a guy that was upstairs. He was always mad looking, he was always angry looking. He seemed pretty protective, that blonde girl. And I never bothered him. I never started a conversation because I assumed that was his girl, but I never heard them that had sex upstairs. And so when one day after several months, they eventually heard me scratching on turntables, and it sounded really good to a lot of people, but I always believed I sucked. I just really wasn't that good in my opinion. But it sounded really good to other people, but compared to like the Q-Berts and the sort of Invisible Scratch Pickles and all those people, you know, the DMC competitors, I fucking sucked. I wasn't even half of what they were, or not even a quarter to what they were. So I could just, it wasn't all that great. But to a girl, when you're young, is very impressive because you're a musician. You show values of intelligence, discipline, dedication, and expression in musical forms, which always women like. Very few people in existence. I think everyone likes music, whether it's, I think we're designed to, whether it's just bongos, violin, or piano, whatever it may be, or even people in the Amazon, that never played musical instruments, to some sort of musical patterns of some expression, enjoy it. So, the reason I say this, the reason I think it's important for me to say this is because I talked about I've talked about this before, after several months of being there, the girl was showing interest in me, and she was a beautiful, light-complected blonde girl, very light-complected, beautiful blonde, and what happened was, after some time, that guy didn't seem to be able to control her, and I began to think to myself, I don't think this guy's having sexual connections with her because she's too interested in me. When a girl's having sex, a lot of the times, she won't be highly interested, especially when she sees a single male that's fairly attractive, that she would be attracted to. I'm much more taller than this girl, and I was lifting weights, and I wasn't a bad-looking guy. And I recall, her being upstairs, and it seemed to kind of cause conflict with that guy because he didn't like the fact that I could tell she was attracted to me. She was attracted to me. She liked me. And I just never really wanted to say very much or too many things, but this guy was always kind of like, oh, that's my girlfriend. And I was always like super respectful toward that relationship couple. I never invaded their space or anything like that. And at least in the beginning, in the first 2 years, because they lived there for about a year and a half to a year. I'd say about a year and a half they lived there. And when I was there, I didn't know I was being supervised and being stalked by Kenneth at the radio station there were some black people that lived on the other side of this apartment complex. It was like right when I walked the doors, there's an apartment and upstairs, and I didn't know I was being stalked out by the gay community, specifically Kenneth and his people, who was navigating this information to him. and he had come over a couple of times. And every time he never waited in the stairway or nothing. Or he I think maybe showed up once and he was at the parking lot before I got there. But he'd always call me before he showed up, or say he was going to show up later tonight. So one day I'm coming home and he doesn't give me a call, and he's waiting quietly, and he has his back up against the wall. He's standing like 3 or 4 steps right up the stairs where my apartment is, with his foot like this. And he's just standing there like this, like he's blocking the pathway for me to go upstairs where this blonde girl is. And I saw him, oh, hey, man, I didn't see you. He goes, yeah, man, I was just about to call you. I just right now arrived, and I was waiting to get the phone, and I saw you pulled up. And this is the threat. At this time, I don't understand who would have contacted him, how the gay community, because this guy must have been gay that was upstairs. They contacted Kenneth and saying, hey, this girl, I'm having problems with my girl. Get rid of this guy. Kind of shoo him off, because I think he's trying to give her the googly eye look. He's, you know how us men are, when we're trying to attract women, we do certain things to attract them sexually and show interest. And gay males don't like that, and they pick up the fact that the woman, they can't tie her down and control her very well sometimes in relationships. So then they'll get somebody else to put that guy down, and that's what they had ordered for Kenneth to come at me. And this is how Kenneth is going to tell you what you can and cannot have, because remember, he controls your mother, he controls a dead little girl, and now he's protecting her, and then he's going to go after you, and then go after you, and he's just going after me. So this is what I talk about, how perpetrating and how persecuting this individual is. That makes me feel like saying lots of cuss words right now, but I'm trying to be careful with my mouth. But I wanted to say that I think it's very important for me to say this. He is entirely... This individual is so persecuting and so conniving, backstabbing, not just backstabbing, but so conniving to say what I can and cannot have. He is manipulating things in such a manipulative form that is entirely one of the most distrustworthy conversations I've ever had. Very many few people that I have been connected to have been at this caliber. When you're dealing with a dead girl, with a dead little girl, and you're dealing with my deceased father. He thinks he's a police officer, and he thinks he's his dad, and he thinks he's more than that. And he thinks that he has been given the privilege not only because he's white, and he looks white, but because of the police department. And that is why. So he knows he has the police force entirely benefiting him, because his daddy's a detective law enforcement, and he can do whatever he wants, take whatever he wants. And this is why he goes to the radio station and does that to them. So I think it's important for me to say this. Because that's how conniving it is. There's a beautiful blonde girl, and I talked about that after that incident. I talked about this before. I'd say after that incident, like later that year, like 4, 5, like 7, 8 months later, I heard her upstairs like she was being raped, and she was having sex in the living room, and this girl never had sex. I could never hear them, not one time ever had sex, but they were having sex in the living room, and it wasn't that guy. That guy wasn't there, and I don't know where he was, but it sounded like this guy that upstairs. I don't know if he was a black guy. I assumed that he was a black guy. Maybe it wasn't. I'm saying that I'm not saying I'm trying to be racist, but I say that because there were some other black guys that were across from me right when I opened the door, right up above me, and they were like all hood and ghetto. And as people know, any chance any straight male gets a chance to see a beautiful girl, they're going to go after them, whether you're Mexican, straight, in most cases. But if you're shy like me, or the way particularly how I function, you kind of withhold back. But usually black people get perpetrated like that and targeted because they know they definitely want a white blonde woman. That's all black guys. That's all a black guy's dreams is to be with a white woman and have babies with them. So I don't know whoever did or targeted that situation, because if Kenneth's involved, nothing but the blacks sent him over there. Oh, oops, that wasn't Kenneth. No, that was Kenneth that did that. So I think it's important for me to say this, because I remember I never heard her have sex again upstairs, and I could hear her crying and she was being anally raped, and she's saying, "Stop, stop! It hurts! It hurts! It hurts!" And she was just crying and crying, and it wasn't like screaming, but it was crying. She was crying, full blown crying at the end, and she was just saying, "Stop! It hurts! It hurts! It hurts! Stop! It hurts!" And that's all she was saying. So I think it's important for me to say this because I don't know what even her name was, but she showed a tremendous interest in me, and I was very interested in her, but I always left it at, that's your, and even sometimes I would look away when I saw the couple walking, because I was always like, I'm not trying to hit on your girl, I'm not trying to, you're my neighbors, you're my neighbors, I don't want problems with my neighbors, these are people I live with, in the area, it's just, we're neighbors. I can hear you walk above me all the time. So I think it's important for me to say something about this, because in this particular fashion and everything that goes on, she was very attracted, and I would have said something to her, but that was the end of it. So I think that, and she ended up getting pregnant by this guy. She ended up getting pregnant by this guy. I don't know who. I didn't see the guy walk in, but I know it wasn't him. And it's just some mysterious guy. I want to say I don't even think it was at night when this happened. It wasn't at nighttime. It was sometime like before dark. So like I said, that I think it's important, that within 5 months, 4 months, they moved out. She ended up getting pregnant, but the guy said that there was another guy that showed up downstairs, and he kind of looked like Justin Wessinger, but he showed up downstairs. He goes, "Hey, you got a tool I can borrow, man?" He goes, "You got any tools I can borrow?" And he seemed kind of, sort of, not necessarily aggressive, but firm, like you, "Hey man, how's it going? I'm looking for some tools. You got like a flathead I can use?" So I don't know if these guys thought that I had screwed her and got her pregnant, and she's taken off. But they wanted to take a look at me, maybe if I was connected to it. And I had nothing to do with that. That was Kenneth that did that to me to prevent me and send one of his people. And if it was a black guy, I bet you it was connected to him some way. But it was involved with that gay community that said that they didn't want her and me talking to each other. So I think it's important for me to say, because if Kenneth is doing this, that's this homosexuality I'm talking about, how he's gathering with a total stranger that's a gay and say, "Don't worry, we stick together, us gay community stick together. I'll go after Hector." "Oh, I'm his family member though, huh?" No, that's his family member. So I think it's important for me to say this, because he was persecuting against my dead sister and so on. So that's what I have to say about that particular situation I wanted to discuss. If you have cameras in there, you can take a look at it. If you're tapping people's phones, you'd be able to get that information, maybe possibly, where somebody texted in and say, "Go after Hector. Don't let him get that white girl." And that's what I'm talking about, because he's going to say what I can and cannot have, and then I'm going to threaten you, scare you this way. And then I'm going to show you how cool I am and use my cool factor to then tell you what you can and cannot have, because who knows better authority and who knows more information. And I'll get David to do it too. So I think it's important to protect my mother, to what my mother was trying to maybe help me do, or help me say, "Get a girlfriend, get a woman." No, you can't. No, he gets to hang around Jillian with hip-hop and head crack. So I'm going to say this. Oh, you can sing Raquel, can't you don't, huh? But anyway, so I'm going to talk, that discussion is over with, but I wanted to say that that's very confirmed with me. He was making that threatening gesture, and I knew what he meant. When he looked at me, there was no conflict prior to that or any interest, but he made it very clear to me that don't go upstairs where that white girl, blonde girl is. He didn't say that, but I knew exactly what he meant. And the way that he was walking, you looking at his phone, be like, and I had to play it off like, "Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, it's cool. We're cool." He's just kind of being himself, just being a dude, huh? Is that what he's doing? No, he's saying that don't go up to that stranger. He doesn't even know these people. But he's not even, this dude's a transgender. This motherfucker's not you don't understand. So I think it's important for me to say this. Anyway, I'm going to talk about a different discussion. That's over and done with. because that's the character of somebody that's really scary. It tells you, oh, that's how, to me, the reason I bring that back up, just to identify how frightening that behavior is. What he's doing is glorifying and getting permission from the police department and all these other people conniving doing this. He's doing this directly to my mother and directly doing this to Frankie being raped because he knows about Frankie being raped and he's totally manipulating it. He's trying to play it off as much as he can. He knows everything about that. And he's milking it to then turn it on me because he knows he doesn't want to get busted with it. And then he wants to play police officer and milk it off for Michael Jackson. For the gay community, remember? Oh no, it was for his daddy. Oh no, he just being a man too. Oh no, that has nothing to do with him being raped or nothing. He's just taking advantage of that shit. And that's how that's how Sarah and Ken did it to my mother. So anyway, I wanted to also say something else and move on to a new subject. Raquel. I think I saw Raquel's daughter at Walmart. In fact, I'm almost positive it was her. She looked like she was about anywhere from 15 to 17 years old. Anywhere from 15 to 17 years old. I'd say 14 to 17 years old. I don't know how she looked. I know she looked exactly like Raquel. And I was at Walmart and she was working there. I didn't approach her. I didn't say anything. I just looked and I went, gosh, she must have had kids and she's involved too. Which still to this day, I have had zero communication with Raquel. There has been absolutely not one word shared ever since that she left from my house and that relationship ended. But she lived in my house for a couple of months, 2-3 months. But I wanted to say that I think if they did this to my mother and gave my mother a Dream Makeover's house, could she have found out or known something about it? Very likely. She was a female. And she's black. Black girls are tough. They're not Auschwitz, German death camp tough or that type of toughness. They're a different kind of toughness. And when I say this, that means that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go after her. They would have. Because they're just like they would have done the Mexican and white community. They would have, if I can get this black girl, which black girls have it harder, they would have gone after that black girl. And they would have gotten her pregnant. Oh, Celestina got a kid and you already had sex with Hector? Okay, let's go after Raquel. And so there would have been a bunch of guys that would have went after her. I don't know if this is true or not, but my mother told me, or her twin said this in the car recently, a couple of months ago when I was in the car with her. She said, oh, ¿sabes esta nega si tiene mucho? She said something in the reference that there was someone that had a bunch of little girls. Like there was a mother that had a bunch of little babies. So I think Raquel, I don't know, I think, who knows, maybe Raquel had a bunch of children. Maybe she has like 5, 6, 7 children. Because guess what? If you gave my mother a house, you're likely to help her and give her a house and all the guys getting her pregnant to take care of. Because if you thought that she was getting trouble and my mother was going through a struggle, let's give it to Raquel too. So I'm not saying anything bad about Raquel. You know, like I said, that relationship ended the way that it did because Michael was bringing in the drugs, and then she did the drugs a couple of times, and I said, you're not going to do drugs. I'm not going to bring you down with me. I'm not going to bring you down with me, and I need to get off drugs first, but I'm not taking you with me. And Michael was the one feeding her drugs, and I said, fuck you. And I told Michael, this is whenever I cut off Michael as well, and I said, get out of here, leave. He was just gonna kill me until I was dead on drugs. He wasn't gonna give a shit after I was dead either. But that's the truth. I mean, people may say something different after now, but if had died at the time, he wouldn't have given a fuck. At that time, he wouldn't have given a shit for nothing. He was a very cold person at that time. Nasty, very nasty. So I think it's important for me to make a discussion about this, because when I make a discussion about kind of what's going on with this is the fact that a lot of people would have went after Raquel. They would have. They would have tried to gotten pregnant because they would have known, oh, okay, you have all these kids. If because you were giving a house away to a woman that has twins and they don't know the babies were taken away, and that's why you gave her a house and wanted to give her sympathy in the president. Because if I slept with Raquel and my dad spoke to the president, you're looking after me, or you had sent people to come after me, but it was a very shitty supervision, you're probably going to do the same with Raquel, because I had a relationship with Raquel. Which means that you would have made sure that you would have had a lot of people would have went after her, so you would have more likely guaranteed, because she's a woman that can make babies and no one else can. Transgender women and men cannot make a baby. They don't have a woman can get pregnant by whatever guy shows up and make a baby and make a human. I don't have to be in the pictures. That life can continue, but there isn't that many women out there, especially since guys would have went after her, because if they would have known, maybe we get a bunch of kids and then we get a free house just like that right over there, and I break it off and go and sleep with a bunch of other women and have a good time. So anyway, I thought I would make that discussion. Another discussion I want to talk about, I'll make another video on this.